you are here this morning. Good to have each one. And I just received a frantic text telling me that I am playing Russian roulette, and why would I be going when there's a world epidemic on? Well, there's only one reason. There are souls that need Christ, and I'm trusting the Lord. And if the Lord tells me to stay home, I'm staying home. But if the Lord tells me to go, I'm going, and He has given me His promise. And so I'm mindful of these things, but we have a great faith in God. I really do. I believe in my God. He's bigger than any problem or difficulty. All right, this morning's lesson is on the fifth commandment, which is the commandment that involves honoring thy father and thy mother. Exodus 20 and verse 12. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. And then added to that is the book of Ephesians 6 and verse 1, which is perhaps, I suppose, the New Testament passage that would go right along with this. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor thy father and thy mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with thee, and that thou mayest live long on the earth. And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but admonition of the Lord. And then along with that we have Exodus 21, and he that curseth his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. I don't really believe that this commandment, while on its face we look at it and say, what do we need this for? I don't really believe it's as cut and dried as we may think in our minds that it is. I actually, if you will notice, I actually called Brother Hayford and I said, would you please do a section on this lesson and write it? Because I'm at a little bit of a loss. I know I'm the pastor, I'm the preacher, I should know it all. But I will confess to you, this is a lesson that I struggled with. Maybe you don't understand that, but I struggled with this lesson. I struggle with it because I think most of you know that my childhood was not the best. At least the early childhood was very bad. And I have an unsaved father, yet today, an unsaved father. Really, my only genuine Christian influence in my life was my grandmother, who, had I stayed with my dad, I probably would not be a Christian. And that's not really, I don't know how you would say that. But the chances of me being a Christian are much less. I feel like it was the mercy of God that God allowed me to go live with my grandmother, who taught me the Christian faith. And so what may seem like a pretty simple thing actually is more complicated, Brother Keith, than we think about. And I still struggle a little bit. How do I fulfill this commandment and do it in the way that's pleasing to God? Because, to be truthful with you, honoring is hard to do when there's not the foundational aspect there to honor. Okay? Now, I look at our crowd this morning and I see a number of you that are blessed with good homes and good parents. My wife, one of the things that I was drawn to was her family, her parents. And I look here, I know Glenn and Glenna, you had godly parents. And Glenn and Glenna, I met your mother. I don't know if I've told you this, but when Barbara Dawson used to attend our church, I guess your mom had a big influence on Barbara. She thought a lot of Sister Harrier. And so one day she came to me and she said, there's a lady in the hospital. Would you go visit her? And I said, well, does she not have a pastor? Well, yeah, she does, but would you please go visit her? Well, that was kind of an ethical struggle that I had. Here's a lady that has a pastor and I'm coming in. I didn't think that was not that I would have been upset, but I've been around pastors that, if somebody else, that's a no-no. So I thought, well, then Barbara came to me again. So I went to visit your mom, just told her who I was. I didn't really make myself available, just trying to fulfill. I was there for Barbara's sake, not for any other real reason. But you could sense here was a lady who loved God. And we had a nice brief visit, prayed, and I left. And let's see, Sister Rhoda, your parents, Brother Keith, you've spoken highly of your parents. Brother Mosteller, I believe that your parents got saved when you were real young. Am I right? How old would you have been?
9.
About 9 years old. And so, perhaps, and so I don't know, Brian, I know your mother has served God for many, many years, and it cost her a lot to serve God. Is it okay if I share a little bit of what happened? I don't want to embarrass, but Brian's mother, when got saved, and Brian's father was angry about it and even believed that she had had an affair with the preacher. And so Brian's mother prayed, "Dear God, let my son look like his dad." And my understanding is Brian's the spitting image of his dad. It's unmistakable, but it cost her her home. It cost her her marriage to serve God. And she served God, and she's 100 years old now next month. And all through these years, through the struggles and all that, thank God for a heritage. I'm thinking of the biblical characters. Timothy. Now the indication is that Timothy's mother and grandmother were Christians. But it would seem pretty clear from Scripture that the father was not. And Titus, so far as we know, we have no indication that he had a Christian background, at least from what I've studied and found. And so here are these, as a Christian now, and all of us could share about our homes. I don't know all the intricate details. We could share various things. There are things in my life that I don't ever want to visit. I don't ever want to even talk about because it's so repulsive to me. And yet now I'm a Christian. How do I deal with the reality of honoring parents? And then there's a second aspect to this. I'm now an adult. I'm now responsible for my home and family. How do I, Brother Wheeler, now deal with parents who are smarter than me and think I'm doing it all wrong? Follow me? How do I deal with this? How do I honor when I feel, I'll be honest with you, my dear grandmother, I love her to death, but she would tell me, now when you have kids, I'd say, "Grandma, I got bad news for you. I'm not raising my kids the way you raised me." Now, don't take that wrong, but I just wasn't going to do it. It was, I would tease her. I don't know if I'd tease. I would tell her at times, "I'm serving God in spite of some of the things you did, not because." You follow me? Sister Rhoda, you're in class. Help us out. Get me out of this mud pit.
I was thinking, I can't remember what situation it was of
we were talking about this. It was not a Sunday school class. I think it might have been Sunday at Faith Bible School or something. But talking about first generation parents,
Okay.
second generation parents, and so there's a big difference between the two. And so like my parents, even though they raised me in this home and things like that, there are some things that they did, and it wasn't because they were trying to do anything wrong or anything like that, but they didn't have a basis of knowledge in Scripture or even from their parents. You know, neither one of my parents were serving God.
Okay.
So I feel like that first generation of Christians that is parenting, there's some pitfalls.
Yeah.
And honestly, I feel like that it's better when you get to that second generation. Like hopefully we learn something from that, and because that we have all this scriptural knowledge and all this time in church, and the Bible is that roadmap for us that we can learn from.
Sure.
There is some things that, and I wouldn't even say it's like a sense of the fathers type of thing, because I don't feel like it's that. I feel like some of it's like knowledge based, and some of it's like they didn't have almost like the skills or the tools in their toolbox to even know that.
The example.
Yeah. And Keith's parents the same exact way, because both of them came from even worse than my parents as far as home life. And like you talk about some of the things, so we've talked about that. Like there are things that both of our parents did, even though they were, and we honor them. I don't mean it like that.
Yeah.
But just because you're honoring your father and your mother, there are some things that you can obviously see that was done wrong. And I'm sure, I hope that Colton, he raises his kids better than I raised him.
Sure.
I'm hoping that that they learn. That would be the point of learning from your mistakes and getting closer to God. And I look at some of those families that maybe they do have a third generation, of people that have, and I don't mean that we put them on a pedestal or anything, but sometimes they don't have the same family dynamic problems because they have this like basis. I'm not saying that they're better. I'm just saying that sometimes they have battles. They might fight different battles, but not the same ones that we would.
Well, Sister Rhoda, the truth is, the battles my parents or my grandmother faced and the fears that she had, I had to scratch my head and say, I don't understand. Because to me, it wasn't a problem. To me, it wasn't, I didn't understand the foundation. I'm going to be truthful with you. One of the things my grandmother, she never wanted me to get my driver's license because she's afraid I'd drive down to the bar and start drinking. I kid you. I didn't. I had to force my way out of the eggshell. It was constant. But guess what? She was raised with a drunkard husband, and her son was an alcoholic, and she was scared to death that I was going to become an alcoholic. By the way, my brothers did. And so to her, Brother Jason, it was fear. I'm scared to death. And you know what I wanted? I would have people call me up and say, hey, Brent, we need you to come fill in next Sunday at our church. Can you drive over? Well, I'm sorry, I can't drive. I don't have my driver's license. And my grandma said I can't drive her car and she won't let me buy a car. Well, man, we'd love for you to come fill in. Yeah, I'd like to. And there was one church, it was over an hour. He sent his son to pick me up and come back, and I filled in on Sundays when the pastor was gone, and the people loved to have me come. Are you following where I'm going with this? Brother Brian, welcome to Sunday school.
I've been listening to this, and I think something we need to decipher, we need to very, very obviously split, is there's a difference between worshiping and actually honoring.
Yeah.
To worship is to imitate. That's how you truly worship, is to imitate. If I want to worship Johnny Cash, I will dress exactly like him, act like him, talk like him. That's how I worship. But to honor Johnny Cash, I go to his grave or whatever.
Sure.
I don't live my life every day according to Johnny Cash. There's a big difference between worship and honoring.
Okay.
I think that if we don't decipher those two, we're going to run a big circle of confusion.
Yeah, that's true.
Just because our parents said, this is what you should do. Like, for example, there's a picture on the wall. it's a funny story.
Your wife's already laughing. It is funny.
It is funny. There's a picture on the wall, and it was a Benjamin Franklin, and the Benjamin Franklin looked kind of almost ghostly because the picture was so faded. And to this day, my dad still thinks that picture is very spiritual and evil because it's not a solid painting of. It has a ghostly effect, therefore, and that goes back to his roots of battling his sisters, which are witches.
Okay.
He's very sensitive to that issue.
Yeah.
I don't have that problem. My parents were godly people, and I never had that problem. But to this day, he still says that picture needs to be thrown in the garbage and probably burned with prayer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And honestly, he has told me that.
Sure.
And
Don't throw away his dollar bills. No, I didn't say that.
I said, it's different. If I worship my dad, I would do exactly what he says every minute. But I don't worship him, I honor him.
Sure.
And there's a big difference.
Sure. Yeah.
Are we still talking about disobedient parents?
You're welcome to jump in, but before you do, I want to point something out in our lesson, and then I want to hear your comment. On page 41, the command honor, we are specifically told to honor and obey, but we are not told to love our parents. Follow me? We're told to honor our parents. Brother Jason?
Well, I was kind of listening, with your background and everything and I know a lot about it, and you know as well as mine, and some of you might not know. And I didn't grow up in these comfortable, cozy Christian homes like a lot of you guys have, and there's maybe some others that have had difficult lives, and mine wasn't the same as yours. Mine was a different difficulty.
Sure.
My dad's accident 24 years ago, that impacted everybody's lives.
Yeah.
But there was never a foundation that we could stand on to say that we are going to live for God, we're going to have God in our homes, and it wasn't like that either. But through all of that, and honoring our parents was even difficult. We were growing up, and we were almost fatherless in a way, not like some have experienced without a father in the home.
Right.
But my dad wasn't the person that he ought to be if he was normal because of the accident that he had to go through, and we were just teenage boys. My brother was just getting to be a teenager, and I was I was Zach's age. I just turned 14 when this all happened. So imagine somebody like Zach going through something like this without anybody to help influence and help them grow up, right?
Right.
But when we get to the undisciplined part, as you grew up, and I thank God that you had a grandma and somebody that loved and prayed for you to help bring you up, because you don't know where you'd be, or I don't know where I would be either.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't have their prayers reaching out to heaven for my sake, for my soul. And we look at honoring parents, and we're looking at the unsaved parents, because we all have parents that are in the world. I definitely do, still do.
Sure.
And family and brothers and whatever. And to honor them, and if you look at what the lesson, what it says, is honor, without knowing the definition, right off the top of your head, you could just dream up and think of what you think that meaning is for that word. What does it mean? To obey, to do as they do, to love them, whatever. But if you look at what honoring is, and in the lesson it says honoring, in the section of honoring unsaved parents, and even though it doesn't say in the scripture to love your parents, it says honor them and obey, and we are to be disciplined. But it also says here that we also have to love. That love must be demonstrated to them. And see, because remember, God, he doesn't love the sin, but he loves the sinner. He still loves us, despite of our division between us.
Right.
He looks over our sin nature, and he still loves us, and they're still praying for us, right?
Yeah.
But a gratitude that must be expressed, and then a life that is illicit pride.
Yeah.
So there's these things here, and we can add whatever we want to it. But I look at it like, how do I honor somebody that doesn't want to live for God, right?
Right.
But I gotta love them, and I still have to obey them in the Lord, right?
There's the key. Obey your parents in the Lord. By the way, the same condition is given for husbands and wives. We are nowhere commanded to obey explicitly, unconditionally. Follow me? So obedience is always put on that condition in the Lord. So if I'm told to do something that violates what God says, that's to be ignored. And this is a real struggle, Jason. Children feel the weight of this. Wives especially. For that reason, husbands ought to take a greater sense of burden and responsibility. For them to take their authority and throw it around is disgusting. It speaks of a small-minded man who would ever require his wife to do something. That's in the Lord. I should take that with extreme caution. That's why I obey my wife and not have her obey me. No, just kidding. But you follow where I'm going. And in our lesson it says the word honor, this is up on 42, the second paragraph. To honor is to give weight to someone. So Brother Keith Wheeler, I say something to you, your dad says something to you, and a stranger says something to you. You're going to give weight to what your dad says. It's my dad. Follow where I'm going with this? What's your comment?
Well, my father is a good man and a Christian, but he has never understood holiness and never followed it. And consequently, in raising us children, he hasn't seen some things, and we've had to buck, to follow the Lord and to make some decisions that didn't meet with His sanction, I guess.
Sure.
And thank the Lord that He's come around with time. Our relationship is very, very good.
Wonderful.
But yeah, I listen to my father, but I can't talk to my dad about politics. We're totally opposite ends of the poles, and each one of us scratches our head. What do you think? What do you think?
Yeah, what's wrong with you?
But I love my father.
Yes.
And I call weekly and check on the folks and love them, and and they'll give me advice from time to time. Now, my father was an insurance salesman, and he laid up some treasures on this earth, and he felt like we should have done the same, more so.
Sure.
That was preeminent in his mind, and serving the Lord, and was a little more preeminent in our mind.
Yeah.
And so we've not always seen eye to eye like that, but
Exactly.
but there is a love there, and there is a respect there.
Yes, yes. Sister Rhoda?
I remember when my grandfather was getting married for the third time. And then he died and didn't get married, but anyway.
Took care of that problem.
But my dad, had to take a stand.
Okay.
And he had to take a stand against his own father. And he had to do that multiple. I remember that both of my grandparents, there were times my parents had to take a stand against them.
Sure.
But they always did, even though they didn't listen, they weren't listening to what they were saying, because I remember my grandfather being very upset with my dad. But my dad was respectful because he had to disagree with him based on a scripture basis.
Yeah.
There were times when my grandmother did things that my dad said, you're not going to do that with my kids.
Yeah.
And she kept pushing it, and so Dad said, okay, they're not going to stay overnight anymore. Oh, that was that was horrible.
Yeah.
But my dad had to take a stand on those spiritual principles. So he did have the weight on what that person was saying, but there came this greater weight of following God.
There you go.
But he never did it in a way that was like bless God, I'm going to do, but almost like in a pious way.
Right.
Like, I'm so much better than you because of.
Sure.
It was always, in a I've got to do this, and Dad, I don't, because it was, like I said, that whole marriage thing, that was a huge deal.
Yeah.
And my grandpa said, well, I can't believe you don't want me to be happy. And my dad said, it's not about happiness, it's about the Bible. And
Yeah.
There's no way, I cannot attend your wedding, and I cannot sanction that. I can't do it according to my conscience, and I have to follow God
Sure.
before I follow that. But he didn't cut him off, because I've also seen honest people that kind of just cut off their parents, and what they missed was an opportunity to be a witness.
That's right.
And then all of a sudden there's this almost like they abandoned their non-Christian family.
Yeah.
Because and I understand the influence, and I know that they didn't want it to influence us kids.
Sure.
But there was also a point where my parents realized that they were going to be the gospel that my grandparents were going to read. And if they didn't live that life in front of them and keep those communication lines open, there's no way they could ever lead them to God.
You know, Rhoda, this whole cutting people off thing, it's a real problem. I struggle with that. Abraham and Lot had to go separate ways, but I don't believe Abraham cut Lot off. He still prayed for him, and he's the one who rescued Lot. And I see this today, and it's getting prominent among, the most spiritual among us, that it's not enough that I'm going to I'm cutting you off, and until you come and kneel before me and acknowledge that I'm the only one right, then we can have fellowship again. That is not Christ. Nowhere in the Word of God is that sanctioned. And I do believe in the church realm, we struggle with this, and I, as a pastor, there's some people I would not let preach in the pulpit, but I'm still going to be their friend. I'm still going to love them. I'm still going to pull for them. But, it's getting to the place in some circles, it's like the Amish or whatever. We're cutting you off unless you got to acknowledge that we are the ones.
This version of excommunication.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a tragedy. But you're right. They are the gospel. And I'll be honest with you. I'm just going to be very, very honest with you. I dread going to visit my dad. I really do. I dread it. Ain't that right, honey? I dread it. I don't like to go. I despise going. But I need to do it. I just helped my dad deal with some things business-wise that had to be dealt with. I call him, but I'll be honest with you, I almost dread talking on the phone with him because he wants to tell me how the Dallas Cowboys are doing. He wants to talk about what he's doing. He and I have no commonality. We don't, Jason. We have no commonality. But I still seek for ways to honor him and give weight to him in this sense, even if I don't enjoy our time together. And I don't. He'll buy a new car, and it's not fun to me, Clayton, because it's the best thing that you've ever seen. There's so much pride there, I can't relate to it. But I owe my dad some honor. And so I'm saying this to the benefit of those who struggle with this. That there is a realm here where we still have to be Sister Rhoda, the only way I know but we still have to be the ones reaching out. If the gospel ought to do anything for us, it ought to help us to be the ones reaching out. And that's hard to do at times, but we should seek for ways to do it. Sister Woodard, the old wheels are turning. No? Wow. Anybody else? I haven't, Brother Jason?
It's God. I don't see anywhere in God's word where He said honoring your parents is going to be easy. Some cases are very simple. If you have parents that are honoring God and living for God, it makes it a whole lot easier for you to honor them, right?
Yeah.
But we go into these things, these stories that we've heard about parents or whatever, and your dad, and I have instances too, it makes it very difficult. And there's some things I have no answers to. All I know to do is pray.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's right.
So, but what do you do I was gonna talk that other talking point that you talked about this cutting off thing. This
Yeah.
completely shearing off your relationship and communication and everything. To me, that is part of this new age cult, this new age religion of self.
Yeah.
Living, desiring, powering, enabling, healing, whatever self is.
Yeah.
It's part of that.
Yeah.
Because you can't help yourself when you got people in the way. So what do? You cut them off. It is disgusting.
Yeah.
It is defiling. In this new age, this new religion I heard about where they're combining Christianity and the Muslim. Have you heard that? Chrislam? I read an article Bianca shared to me there. Churches more in America are pulling them two together and combining the two faiths and trying to match them up somehow. It is worse than that because it is self.
You know, my wife's aunt posted.
Finish.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My wife's aunt, talking about that, my wife's aunt posted something on Facebook, I don't know, it's been a year or two ago, and it was just bold. Christ and Islam are compatible. There's no difference. Well, I was alarmed at it, and I responded, that is completely false. So maybe that's what this is. But she heard that at church. In church in Denver, at her church, they are promoting that Islam and Christianity are the same religion. And we need to quit separating them. So go ahead and
They're
finish.
basically pulling their differences together,
Yeah.
uniting together, becoming, the ones. It's just another narrative. It's just another
Right.
for the devil to destroy it all. But anyway, so what I'm going to say is, what happens when you got a parent, let's say, that decides to cut off their children, their grandchildren, the people that love and pray for them, whether they're worldly or Christians, genuine Christians? How do you honor that if they don't want to talk to you, right?
Yeah.
Or if they don't want to even show love or send gifts or
Sure.
send messages even or whatever, letters.
Mm.
So, because they're so indulged in the new age religion. Some of you might know where I'm going with this.
Sure.
And I don't know any other way. If they want nothing to do with you, why do I have to try to make contact if they don't want nothing to do with you, right? If it's not going to do any good. All I know to do is pray.
Yeah.
And ask God to help that person. But I still you still have to honor that person as a parent.
Yeah.
That
I
they were a
understand.
giver. And I think there's a line of thankfulness that has to be given and honored.
Sure.
We have to show they have given life.
Yeah.
They have somewhat provided and nurtured and given to you in your life. You've got to be thankful for that. But if there's
Right.
other things, of course you're not going to be thankful for everything.
Yeah.
But I think there comes a line to where we have to draw, like you have to with your dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all have to.
Well, in that instance, you honor them by respecting their wishes. And if they don't want to hear from you, you don't have to.
That's true.
So if they say don't call me, you just got to honor them, right?
You honor it.
Well, I think the difference between honor and a relationship, if we think we equal honor with a relationship, I think somewhat naturally.
Yeah.
And then, but in that case, you're not. You're not going to have, you may honor your dad, but what you're missing there and why you dread it is because there's no relationship.
That's true.
And you can't fix that.
Yeah. I can't relate to him.
And there's nothing, like, you could try everything.
Yeah.
There's nothing that you can do.
It's going to take God to do it.
It's out of your control.
Yeah.
You're not making those choices.
Yeah. Any other comments?
I would make a comment on the fact that, in the Ephesian portion, it starts out, initiates with children obey your parents in the Lord. This is right, but in verse 4, and then it comes back and says that fathers provoke not your children. So this is not a blanket statement that you have to honor, obey, respect, love, cower down to a parent that is not that is provocative. It's not a license for a parent, for a father to be ruthless, rugged, and to demand obedience, because the command is provoke not your children. There's that expectation that the fathers need to be.
You know, Brother Wheeler, I think that is a very important distinction. I've seen ruthless people with their kids. They demanded that their kids. But then I've seen parents who their children loved them so much. They had so built that relationship that child was pained to disobey. And it didn't take a lot of physical discipline to bring that child where they needed to be, because you know what? That child had such a... And you know, I just want to say something here. I heard a sermon one time. It wasn't even from our circle, but I thought it was really unique, and it spoke to me. Fathers need to hold their daughters' hearts, because they need that relationship. They need that. They need to feel their dad's love and relationship. And that when that girl gets to that age where she's looking, if that father holds her heart, he'll be able to give it away to somebody that's worthy, because he built that relationship with her. He didn't do it with brutality. You better obey what I said. But there was something in there. She adored him, and she wanted. And Brother Wheeler, that's, I think, something that both sons and daughters, but that's on you, the parent. That's on me, the parent. To raise children that want to honor, that I wouldn't want to hurt my parents. I don't want to break their heart. And I don't understand that. Let me say this. As much as I've said about my dear grandmother, there was something in me, though, that never wanted to break her heart. She had been through enough. And I didn't want to, and I wanted to do what was right simply because, and I don't understand that. I don't understand the attitude that will walk on the broken hearts of parents. And so, you're right. A parent needs to follow that too. Provoke not your children to wrath. And I will say this, I've spoken to my boys, is mom and dad doing something that makes it hard for you to serve God? I don't know that we did the best job. I look back on it, I see so many deficiencies. And I'll just give you a little insight. My wife was far better with the kids than I was. She let the kids play with scissors. Man, not me. I was like, what are you doing? And you know what? Her mother was the same way. But she let the boys do things. I wasn't that way. I mean, when Travis got his driver's license and started to drive out of the yard, I was like, I had to go hide. I was scared. And by the way, he did back into my truck. I mean, you know. And then he gets out and says, well, come on, dads, homeschoolers are the first kids to do everything. I'm like, don't do it on my pickup. So the truth is, I saw that in myself. I had some of my grandmother in me that was scared. And yet she had to make Travis go get his driver's license. He didn't even want to get it. She's like, you're going to. And I said, honey, you're going to have to be the one to take him to the driving test. I can't do it. Right. I just couldn't do it. I was like, man, there's no way. I couldn't let go of that steering wheel. That's just not me. And so I had to recognize that in myself and find a way to withdraw. And I don't know, did you take Levi too, or did Travis? You did both, the boy. Oh, I love you so much, honey. You follow what I'm saying? I do think, Brother Jason, that we have to understand our own difficulties. And I did. I see it. Levi begged me to let him drive the boat and pull me around the lake. You would only find me as a corpse getting pulled around by Levi. There's no way I would let him do that. Maybe I damaged the boy, but there was no way. I could just see him taking that booger wide open when Dad said, Dad, you are going to get the ride of your life. You know where I'm going. Man, I am way off base here. But anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is you do have to recognize your own weaknesses, your own shortcomings in areas. And I tended to be more quick to discipline. I see something, you're not going to do that. My wife wasn't so much that way. And I had to learn to say, oh, wait a minute. There might be two sides. I remember one time we were out at a job site and I got after Travis real hard about something. And then I got to thinking about it and God dealt with me. You didn't even find out if that was totally true. And I went back. He probably doesn't even remember, but I went back and I asked him to tell me what happened. And when he got through, I was the one that was wrong. I just thought I saw what I saw. And so I was just quick to deal out justice. And I stood there and I said, son, I am so sorry. Dad was wrong. I should have asked you. I should have gotten the facts. Please forgive me. But you know, some parents, they're too big to say they're sorry. Because they're right because of their position, not their principles. And I think sometimes we need to be humble enough to say, you know what, I was wrong. And so, I don't know, maybe I'm off base here, but
Something Jason said, and I can't remember exactly now what it was, but it brought a thought to my mind.
sure.
So, in regards to our parents and taking their advice and all this kind of stuff, I had a real struggle with my mom when it came with the kids, and you kind of referenced that, how mom would step in, and I had to at times say, you know what, I'm sorry, but this is my house, these are my children.
Yeah.
I'll do it the way I see fit. And but when I was at her house and the boys wanted to do something, I'm like, no, we might do that at home, but this is Grandma's house.
Yeah.
And we do it Grandma's way at Grandma's house.
Sure.
And I mean, Travis would have to, say if I did it good enough or not. But I think I always tried to, even though I disagreed with Mom, I always tried to make sure that they loved Grandma, that they wanted to go to Grandma's, they wanted to be.
Oh, they did.
Grandma.
Oh, yeah. Grandma's, but yeah, they could do no wrong. Well, Travis couldn't. Oh, yeah. And there is here the reality. Nikki's parents were very different. Her dad was so passive. That's the only way. And I see that in Travis now. I mean, he can sit there and his kid's climbing all over his head and he doesn't even notice it. That's not me, But anyway, that's the way his grandfather, that's the way Nikki kind of is. She can tolerate a whole lot more than I can. But anyway, I guess what I'm saying is you're right. There needs to be that understanding of our place. There is something here that I do want to say. I want to say this. One of the things that really bothers me is when I see mothers and dads that demean each other in front of the kids. You cannot have children that respect their parents when mom and dad demean each other in front of the kids. If you have disagreements, you need to take that to the bedroom and talk about it. And no child, are you listening to me? No child should ever hear their mother say, "You're so stupid," to their dad. That is wrong. It is wrong. And a man should never put his wife down in front of the kids. He should never demean her, even if it's a meal you don't like. For you to put that lady down. My wife, there were things that and I'll be honest with you, on the surface, I didn't really so much care for. I can truly say I don't really remember bad meals. I could have been picky and say, I don't like this kind of stuff. You just make... We should be seeking to honor and build one another up. And folks, parents or children are a reflection of their parents. If dad is big enough to get up and help do the dishes, guess what? The kids will too. If dad is big enough to come in the kitchen and pat mom and say, "Mom, you did a great job with supper," you know what? Your kids will do that too. That's right. If dad and if mom will honor her husband, show him love and respect. And I have an opinion, I think it's scripturally based. I believe that generally a wife is responsive. So if a man leads the way, the wife generally, I think it's natural within a woman to crave and to want to respond to her husband. Now, I will say that a carnal heart is self-centered and can, resist and not be responsive because it's selfish. I don't want to, I don't care. But that's unscriptural too. So what I'm saying is that in the marriage and in the home, your children will generally respond the way that the husband and wife respond to one another. And I think this is very, very important. If the wife goes around behind the husband and the husband lays down rules, and then the wife says when dad leaves, "Oh, but you can do it. He's just an old fogey," you have destroyed your spouse. You have. And there's no wonder that some kids grow up and play one against the other. The other day, something happened in the home. I had told Joy no. Nikki didn't know. She had no clue. Guess what? She slipped in, and I don't even know, I don't know that she had a malicious intent, but she asked Mom about it, and Mom said, "Sure." And when I came in, there she was. I said, "I told you you couldn't have that." "Oh," and Nikki turned right to her. "Did Dad tell you no?" "Yes." She took it away. Because you have to honor one another. And parents, we have to learn to do that. We have to honor one another and respect one another. You can't expect your kids to if you don't.
You know the best way to solve that? Well, if one of the boys came to me and asked me if they could have something, I just say, "Well, what did your mother say?"
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll be honest.
She said no,
I'm going to be honest with you. We generally don't have that issue. In fact, we were teasing Joy the other day. It's been a long time since we've been able to give you a spanking. And she kind of looked around and she said, "Yeah, that's because I'm listening." Like, thank God, I hate giving spankings, though I tell her it's fun, but it's really not.
I think it's important you said that parents have to learn.
Yeah.
Sometimes that we have this expectation that we automatically do things.
Yeah.
But we don't.
No.
And you can have we were married for 7 years before we had a child. There's a lot of things that you don't even realize that you have I don't want to say even an issue, but that you would have a disagreement on because you've never done that before.
Yeah.
You've crossed all these bridges in marriage, but then you get the children, and then you're like, "What do you think? What?" Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. So that learning.
What are you laughing at?
You have to learn. I mean, I feel like it's, and maybe that's why the first words are so messed up, because they just keep practicing. But see, the ones that get like the 5th or 6th one down, we're pretty good.
You got a ways to go, sister. Melissa, did you have a thought? You're good? I don't know, you look like you might have been thinking about it. Maybe you just don't want to say it out loud. Honoring unsaved parents on page 44. Number 1, a love that must be demonstrated. We must show love to them. And we talked about this, that even if they're not Christians, a gratitude that must be expressed. And I will tell you this. That's something I do tell my dad quite often. "Dad, thank you for what you did for me." I've never told him it wasn't very much, but just okay. I had to put myself through private school. I had to work and pay to do it because Dad wasn't going to shell out the money. He was too busy saving for retirement. But I still thank him for what he did do. And I'm thankful for that. And then a life that elicits pride. The pride here isn't an ungodly or wrong pride. It's just a consistent holy life will speak volumes in giving honor to mother and father. And it is interesting to me, and I didn't understand this until I had kids. But it is kind of thrilling when someone walks up to you and says, "Hey, your son is so-and-so. I know them. They are good kids." that really means a lot. That really does. That's the concept that's being posited here, is a life that elicits pride as you grow. And my dad will tell me quite often, he'll say, boy, I'm really proud of you and what you're doing. I think it just means something to him to know. Even though there was a time when I made him angry for serving God, now he's glad. And so, all right. Any parting shot before we go? We could have gone another 30 minutes, I think, here. This is good stuff. Father in heaven, bless this lesson. In Jesus' name, amen.